All right, well, raising an American flag in the middle of the West Bank. For more than a week now, Israeli settlers have been taking over multiple homes in the occupied West Bank, including the home of Ohio native and Palestinian American by the name of Loui Ridi. Ridi returned home and decided to fly Old Glory over his property in hopes it would drive the settlers off. Well, now Ridi finds himself in the middle of a fight over the future of Israel and any possible Palestinian state. For more, let's bring in our foreign correspondent, Tom Soufi Burridge. So, Tom, just tell us what's going on within this village and why now?
Yeah, Kira, so a bit of background first. The siege by dozens of Israeli settlers on 3 Palestinian homes in Kusra village in the West Bank began more than a week ago. Palestinian families, including relatives of Loui Ridi, who you mentioned there from Ohio, were trapped inside their homes. Loui Ridi at the time was back in the US. Now, the settlers loitering outside, threatening the families, allegedly damaging their properties and cutting electricity and water and preventing supplies like food getting in. Now, it took about 3 days for the IDF, the Israeli military, to arrive on the scene. The first Israeli soldiers to get there were then seen praying with the settlers. The IDF says it is investigating those troops, who were then replaced with another IDF unit. The IDF declared the area a closed military zone and restricted the access of journalists and NGOs. Then on Thursday night, the IDF says its soldiers dismantled 2 illegal outposts in the area, detaining 1 Israeli. Israeli troops have remained in the village since then, and the siege by the settlers is over for now. And yes, as you say, Loui Ridi, who is a Palestinian American from Ohio, has now returned to his house in that village, which was one of the homes under siege. His brother was among those trapped inside. And in that symbolic move, raising the American flag on his property, saying he hopes it would send a signal to US officials, because he fears that if and when those Israeli troops move out of the village of Kusra, the settlers could return en masse again. And today, Ridi and a settler confronting one another in the village near to his house. And it shows, Kira, just how there is still tension there.
So we've been covering the rise of settler violence against Palestinians in the West Bank for a while now. Why do you think this incident receives so much attention? And what's the Israeli government saying? Is it just the fact that he, raised the flag and created an uproar by just the symbolism of that?
We haven't had comment from the Israeli government on the raising of the American flag, Kira, yet. Look, there was a rare condemnation days ago of the settlers from the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, who called the men besieging the homes, quote, terrorists. The Israeli government rejects that characterization. It has condemned the actions of the settlers in Kusra, but it puts the rise in settler violence in the West Bank to what it says is a violent minority of youths. Now, one leading Israeli opposition politician has accused the Israeli government of failing to prevent, quote, anarchy and violent law-breaking by an extremist minority in the West Bank. Look, the context here, Kira, is that Israel's far-right security minister, a man called Itamar Ben-Gvir, is a settler himself, and the Israeli government has backed the expansion of Jewish settlement building in the occupied West Bank, which many countries around the world deem to be illegal. And having reported there on a number of occasions over the past 3 years, I've seen how Israel has made life harder for Palestinians in the West Bank in recent years. And I've been to the scene of previous settler attacks on Palestinian homes in which sometimes Palestinians have been killed. Now, on each occasion, there are legitimate questions about whether the security forces could have prevented or done more to stop the attacks. The settler movement is today undoubtedly emboldened. And as you say, Kira, events in Kusra have garnered an unusually high level of international scrutiny, partly because one of the homes is owned by an American, partly because reporters on the ground are making sure the story is covered. And this is a divisive issue within Israel just weeks before a crucial election. There has been no comment on events in Kusra, that village, from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who might once again need the support of far-right parties if he were to win. And those parties, of course, represent the settler movement.